6 years old. I was running out to recess. I was racing for another kid. He pushed me and I slipped on the gravel and I hit a tetherball pole. And when I went to the doctor's office, turned out I had 9 out of the 10 symptoms being mentally challenged for life. They didn't think I was possibly gonna walk ever again. They didn't think I was ever gonna speak ever again. They thought I was gonna have to be fed. And here I am today because of it, because someone or something took care of me enough. And they say, you're not done yet.
I'm with Logan Fairchild. He's the director of paper called Ifficient. These guys been around for a good while, doing a lot of registrations per day.
Ifficient primarily, the bread and butter is insurance and legal. We started in MVA. That was our first vertical that we ever launched almost 2 years ago. From there, we got into pretty heavily into mass torps and then transitioned quickly to insurance.
Which would you say are your top 2 or 3 verticals right now?
I would say auto and SSDI are probably some of the biggest verticals that we do on a volume perspective.
How do you manage the compliance aspect of it?
So on the front end is we have heavy vetted process. Behind that, what follows is we do what's called a random 48-hour audit. So any new partner that ever comes on, they're randomly selected for a weekly audit within 48 hours, guaranteed every single time.
What would be your advice to somebody that maybe they're getting close and you're getting frustrated? And what's your advice to them?
If it's hard, it's probably because it's worth it.
Absolutely.
And if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Boom, we're rolling, man. Day number 2. Actually, this is day number 1, right? Lead gen. I don't even know. Yesterday felt, yes, it's kind of 2. Yesterday was kind of like day 1.
1.5?
Yeah, 1.5. Our Logan Fairchild, he's the director of paper called Ifficient. These guys been around for a good while, doing a lot of registrations per day. Doing the last couple of years. You got in this game 2 years ago and you're doing fucking nice, man. Put up some good numbers, man. So I'm glad to have you on the show, man.
David, pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We had a good time last night out here, man. The networking's been pretty good, I think. I mean, like yesterday was like a lot of heavy networking at the bar over there. We went to that mansion party. Yeah, it was good stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the connections and some of the bigger players in the space have been here. So there's a lot of valuable things that I've been able to get out of the show so far.
Yeah. So what I find interesting, I met you, I don't know, maybe not even a year ago. I know it was a year ago, 9 months ago, whatever it was, right? And
yeah, Vegas.
Yeah, we met in Vegas and you've been just freaking cranking it. You put your head down, taking this really seriously. And I feel like you're a student of the game, and then the numbers are showing, right? You guys just got your gold award, right? First gold award.
Yes, sir.
That was $1 million gold award. And you say you're committed. It's going to be $10 million to be your next gold award, right?
10 million will come this year, yeah.
It's going to come this year, right? So tell the audience, what are you running at? What kind of verticals? Tell us the whole thing.
Sure. So Ifficient primarily, the bread and butter is insurance and legal. So we started in MVA. That was our first vertical that we ever launched almost 2 years ago. From there, we got into pretty heavily into mass torps and then transitioned quickly to insurance. So MVA, mass tort, legal, SSDI is in the legal space. And then on the insurance, home, auto, final expense are our big ones on the insurance side. ACA.
Got it. Which would you say are your top 2 or 3 verticals right now?
I would say auto and SSDI are probably some of the biggest verticals that we do on a volume perspective. I think a lot of people struggle with SSDI just because there's a lot of screening involved and a lot of people like to take the shortcuts. Yeah, we do all the criteria. We actually properly vet these clients. And that's what's led us to work with probably the largest direct SSDI buyers in the nation. And that's a really good vertical for us. And then auto is something that we're booming in right now as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Auto, I feel it was hot many years ago, probably when I first got into this. Then it went cold as fudge. It died. And I kept hearing it's coming back. And it did come back. It came back pretty hard.
I was telling Mike, I said, why aren't you doing any auto with us? And he's like, I can't do it. But yeah, auto's the big one for us right now in SSDI. MVA is also pretty strong, but those are probably our top 2.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about, because your quality is good, you got a good process, the direct buyers, right? And I think that's the key. How long did it take you to get to that point? Because I feel like that's the hardest part. You got to start with the networks, right? You sacrifice a lot of the payouts, but at least you have some consistency there, right? But the real key is to go direct to the buyers, right? How long did that take? And what are, like, if someone's watching the show right now and that's what they want to do, like, what's your tips for them?
Yeah, great question. I think what I started, my strategy through the whole process was, number one is when I first got in the game, learning on networks, letting them kind of be the, I won't say test dummy, I guess you can say, is that way you can hone in your process, you can hone in your quality, understanding CPAs. Yeah. Because without those knowledge or the understanding that conversation, it's really hard you get them, but you can't keep them. Yeah. And so faster than, what's worse than not having them is having them and then getting paused, in my opinion. And so Ifficient is in the business of doing something for the long haul. I want to work with you. I want to set it. I want to forget about it. And we just do business forever. So after I probably ran for 6 months, just kind of losing things, losing buyers, and then really honing in on.
Why were you losing the buyers, you say? Was it a quality thing? Was it
Yeah, I think it was just not knowing how to manage the quality and how to manage and being able to work with the buyer to get them what they want, but also getting what you need out of it to be successful in a campaign. I think the biggest part about it is when we ran only internal, we didn't lose too many because we had bad quality, but because there was a lot of networks, they would go sign up another publisher that blew up their CPAs. They paused for everybody, and me being a byproduct of that. And so my attempt to solve that is, well, how do I get buyers that are used to underperforming pubs but not losing the whole office or everybody? And so that's just going direct. I started going direct with SSDI and Debt were kind of the first two where I started working directly with them. But that was the primary one. I think my tip to being able to keep them is being able to be ahead of your CPA before they are. Yeah. So I get a report every single Monday that we check our CPAs by source, by campaign, by vertical. And I know at any time on the blink of an eye who's underperforming and who's not, and being able to do that. Another thing that we've done to keep them is we just issue credits. If my buyer's not making money, then there ain't no point of this. And how we get increased the budgets, they can have the confidence of knowing if my CPA is high, all we'll do is we'll just issue credits enough to get it to the target benchmark. So they basically have a guarantee that whatever they buy from us is going to meet their metric.
Yeah, and you separate yourself from everybody else when you do that. You take it on the chin.
Yep.
They see that, hey, you're a part, and your buyers, you're not nothing without them, right? They're a partner, so you got to make it right to them.
Yeah.
When it comes out to, and then you lose short term, but long term, you don't really lose. I mean, you take a step backwards. I shouldn't say you lose. You take a step backwards to take huge steps long term.
And it's harder to get them back live after you've blown something up than it is to just take one on the chin from the very beginning.
Yeah. I tell the team that don't get paused. Whatever the hell we gotta do. I don't care if the budgets go down 90%. Because once you're paused, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Yep. They're gonna forget about you. They go on to the next shiny object, the next lead partner. So you gotta stay in it. Because once you're out of that circle, it's hard to get back the hell in, man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We have a saying, never lose a buyer, never lose a vertical. That's our whole thing is anytime we ever launch a vertical, we never lose that vertical. Any vertical I've ever launched since we started it, we have MVA, ACA, SSDI, final expense, auto, Medicare, MVA or torts with our MVA, and never once has any of those verticals ever been shut down or we haven't ran at all. And that's a key thing we have with our publishers too, is they have that stability because we're already ahead of it. And so, yeah, your CPA might not be well, but we'll work with you on credits or we'll adjust your payouts, but you never losing that offer. As long as you stay compliant, which is a big aspect to us, you never have to worry about losing or the ups and downs of us.
How do you manage that, the compliance aspect of it? Because I know working huge about on the website, web leads have a lot of fraudulent leads going on right now.
Yeah.
In paper call, the coach calls, all sorts of crap going on. How do you manage that?
So I think Ifficient, I owe a lot CEO Vince Fulani. He's always been a very forward thinker when it comes to compliance. Twine, we just solved the one-to-one solution. And we've always just never wanted to risk the integrity of our name. And how we primarily do it on the paper call is probably unique and more sophisticated than a lot of other people in the industry. And that's a benefit of working with us is number one, we have a very strict vetting process. So on partner traffic, we will only, there's a 12-step checklist all of our affiliate managers have to complete and sign off of. We check TCPA language, we check no marketing partners list, we review creatives, we're transparent with our buyer, we get all real approvals, we don't just plug someone into a buyer without them asking. So on the front end is we have a heavy vetted process. Behind that, what follows is we do what's called a random 48-hour audit. So any new partner that ever comes on, they're randomly selected for a weekly audit within 48 hours, guaranteed every single time. A lot of that's managed through our VAs. Not only what that does is they check the trusted form, they listen to the recordings, making sure it's from the proper call center location, making sure that reporting matches the script of it. They pull 5 random calls to pull data samples, reviewing our trusted forms. No mobile device or no desktop devices, no Pakistan, IP match customer lead information. And then they go through that and then how we keep that ongoing. So we do the 48 hour to prevent catching things before something bad happens. And then ongoing as we do a monthly audit on every single publisher that we work with every single time, no matter how big you are, no matter how many calls you've ever sent us, every single month we do it ongoing. So We can heavily weed out in the front end, spot check ourselves after 48 hours, and then we have an ongoing thing to make sure that we're continually following the right process, putting no companies or ourselves at a legal risk.
This is huge, and everything you just gave a fucking blueprint right there and a template. And unfortunately, I bet you only 1 to 5% of people listening will actually implement that. Sure. But that 1 to 5% is going to help them accelerate their gains, and that's the reason why you guys don't lose clients.
Yep.
That right there is huge because man, I ran wild for a while, many years ago. I got fucking burned. Not having these steps in place cost me some 6 figures, man, multiple 6 figures, right? So I had to learn the hard way, and I lost clients because of that. I lost fucking, big campaigns, and it sucked going backwards, especially when we have all that momentum. Business is about momentum. You want to keep the momentum going, but and a lot of people don't want to put the time and effort into that, right? So I can't emphasize enough. What you said was amazing because that's what you got to do.
And you're only as good as your last call.
Yeah,
I can do a million calls, and you're only as good as that last one. Some things, it's inevitable that something challenging or how something not supposed to happen is going to happen. It's inevitable to be able to do that. However, I like to understand is we put our best foot forward to make sure that we minimize any damage for anybody or in compliance. That another aspect of the QA process or a compliance process is we've implemented our own QA team. So I don't outsource it. I have 3 people that sit there live daily.
Nice.
We probably do 1,500 to 2,000 calls a day. And we probably manually listen to, I would say, almost 80% of all calls on a daily basis. So oftentimes, transfers on an inbound line or something, we hear that from a publisher. We pause it in real time, active, before a buyer will ever even know. And we solve that problem instantly. And so that way you're not seeing reoccurring issues. You tell someone the same problem that you're having, and then it keeps happening. Like, we solve those problems instantly in real time. I manage a lot of it through a QA chat on Skype. Is we put all of our QA, and all they do all day is just put in questionable calls. Hey, we don't like this. They identify same voices. They identify transfers on inbounds. They identify not following the script or the process. And all of that is covered real time, all day, every day. And like I said, I think the big part of not only having the compliance, but also spot checking that through QA and listening in real time.
That's huge. That right there is massive. I love that you're doing it. And again, success leaves clues, right? And that's one reason why you guys have been successful. You're going to continue to be successful. There's a new endeavor called Roofs in the Box. It's just, man, from day one, it's taken off.
When I first started getting into the roofing industry, what was happening was my fixed costs were always there. And so for me, I was looking at how can we kind of, 1, save on these costs, and then 2, how do I not lay people off during down times? But also maybe even the ability to pocket more money during the slow season or even the peak season. Since we've done this before, like with our lead gen companies where we have virtual staffing and from Argentina or Colombia, I'm like, why don't we do the same thing in the construction business? Now, once we figured it out, so we reduced their fixed cost by 70%. And so now during the downtime, they have real seasoned veteran type of players. But during the uptime, they pocket 70% of their operational costs are now going back in their pocket. And then when it's time to scale, they have the back end prepared, already ready to go to help them lift off. Depending on what state you're in, you're averaging about 12.5% on what you pay out on taxes, insurance, all the different insurances that you have to pay out, right? So yeah, you don't have to pay out unemployment, you don't have to pay out FICA insurance, Medicare, Social Security, the things that business owners have to eat.
Roofs in the Box is not just limited to roofing or home improvement companies.
You can use it for any services, right? You can use it for IT. We use them internally for data sales, for hygiene, for analytics. It doesn't even matter what the vertical is.
It's like business in the box at the end of the day.
Pretty much, yeah.
We're looking forward to a big year. We have a lot of big things on the horizon. Home services is coming out this year. And that's one of our big focuses. And we're also doing a heavy push on a lot of our O&O inbound lines as well. Scaling out those initiatives and landers as well.
So let me ask you, because I feel like there's a lot of people, when you're talking about SSDI, some of those verticals, it's more like a subprime audience, right? It's where you say that it's subprime audience. So when home services is more of a mid-prime to prime audience, right? I feel like it's tough for a lot of media buyers to do both successfully. Some of them are like really good at the subprime audience, and then they crank that. Some just and they can't figure out how to do the same angles on a prime audience. I mean, you agree with that? And how you juggle both successfully?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it, our current data set right now, 90% of what we do is all internal. From a data perspective, we're running promo or path sites, promo in nature. Not
Is that co-reg suite?
Yeah.
Stuff, yeah.
exactly sweep surveys, things like that. By nature, someone signing up for a gift card is going to be looking for free money, things like that. So most of that data is all subprime, very cohesive offers to what that person needs. Now, as we go to home services, we're going to have to completely move our traffic source and our traffic type from, it doesn't historically perform as well as other verticals do on that kind of process as something like search or social. And so that's where we're primarily going to run most of those. Now, from an angle perspective, I think, if marketing at a fundamental aspect is all the same, if you have a good enough offer, people are going to take it. And you just have to be willing to test multiple creatives, test multiple offers, and just let the market decide on what they want to hear. I think the strategy is essentially the same, but the messaging, all of that is different. But
Got it. And what home services are you looking at in particular?
So I just finished up my demand stack for plumbing, and so we already have a pretty large plumbing campaign that's going to be launching in the middle of February. I probably want to follow that quickly up with HVAC, roofing, windows. Those are probably the closest following behind that.
Plumbing is great. I'm not that we're doing it, but it's one of those. We do roofing, we do windows, right? But I'd like to be able to start testing that out this year, right? Pest control, another one.
Pest
Because there's always, it's evergreen, man. I mean, people get pests, your plumbing issues. This shit doesn't stop.
Yeah, that's the thought process on it for
Yo,
me.
you like that? Yo, you should hear me. I just said plumbing issues. The shit doesn't stop. Dude, I just make up this shit. I don't know where, but that was pretty good, right? Oh, yeah. Look at that. Got Brad Love over here. Good Fiji water.
So my thought behind home services is primarily going to focus on emergency or things that people really must need right now. What are they going to go search for right
Super high intent. Yeah, it's going to cut.
plumbing? They have a pipe break or something like that.
Yeah.
My sink is not working. That's searchable. I also think about year round.
Yeah.
What is year round? What's going to happen at all points of the year? And it doesn't kind of go away.
Yeah.
I like the same thing about heating and HVAC. It happens, the heating out primarily in the winter, air conditioning, a lot of stuff in the summer. And so I think everyone has one. Roofing, windows, I like those. However, I think they're a little bit higher ticket. And sometimes I think they can be seasonal depending on the geographic of which they're located or a person is. So same with pest control, it's probably a big win. But as I've come to figure out in my experience with this is a lot of things are seasonal, open enrollment, debt's really big in quarter 4. What starts happening in quarter 1, and it all changes. And you have to key to being successful in a space is being able to be diverse and adapt quickly. Last year, 2 years ago, every single buyer on ACA had static payouts. Now this year, I don't have one single buyer on static payouts. Everything is on a RTB, right?
How were you a manager? Because I know a lot of people were like pissed about this RTB. They seem like a lot of people. Most people didn't do it successfully. They just caused a lot of pain points with them.
Yeah, I don't love it personally, but I don't have an option. I either do or do not. There's no try. And to me, I'm not giving up and I don't try and I won't just not try at something. And so if the way the marketplace is telling me and is RTB is where it is and where it's going, then that's where I'm going to follow and I'm going to learn to love it. I can't, I can't do anything about it. So I'm going to learn to love it and I'll make it work. That's just how I roll.
No, that was I'm going to throw an SAT word, very poignant, what you just said. I haven't used that word in fucking 20 years. Right? I don't think I've ever used that word. But no, poignant. That was very poignant because it's true. It's almost like politics, right? You might be you want this fucking guy to win, that person to win, right? And then, listen, doesn't matter who was president. Can't be going crazy about it. You got to figure a way to make it work. This guy's going to be good for this, going to be bad for that. You navigate, you pivot. And that's the nature of being in business, right? So whether you like RTB or you don't like it, it's here. The buyers want it. And the buyers are the one writing the paychecks.
Yeah.
Right? You're writing our checks. So you got to adapt with it.
You can't. There's nothing else you can do. At the end of the day, you do or do not. There's only one option. And what we do is we do. We don't not. So that's all we're about.
I love it. So I'm going to pivot right now. I'm going to go away from media buying, away from business. And you said something that you don't give up, right? I want to talk about something personal to you, right? I mean, you had brain surgery when you were young, right? I mean,
yeah.
How old were you? And can you talk, you mind talking about that?
Sure. So, it was actually my first memory to life.
Really?
As the very first thing I could remember ever in my entire life.
Wow.
I was 6 years old or 7 years old and I was running out to recess. I remember leaving a lunch and then we walked out the door. We ran out to recess to the playground. This is in Topeka, Kansas. And I was racing another individual or another kid. he pushed me and I slipped on the gravel and I hit a tetherball pole directly onto my head.
Man.
All the blood from the left side of my brain went to the right, and it was started to press my brain up against the skull. I remember waking up like a bomb happened. There was nobody outside, and I like looked and opened my eyes, and everything was blurry, and teachers were gone, students were gone. They just left me on the pavement. I went to go back into the door. It was locked. I had to walk around to the front of the school as a 7-year-old child, and open to the front door to be buzzed in. And I was like crying, obviously. I had in my medical record report, it still says it was about a golf ball size, or a baseball size knot on the side of my head. And it went over the protruding of my ear. It was so large. The nurse wouldn't let me in there because I was crying. She had a sign that said, "No crying, no service."
Oh my God.
They let me sit there after I, kind of cleaned myself up. They checked me out and they sent me back to class. I got sent back to class. I remember throwing up all over my desk. And then she was like, "Okay, you need to go back to the nurses." We were poor. I rode school buses. It was just not a great neighborhood. The school bus actually dropped me off at my front door of my house that day. That's how kind of intense it was. I remember walking in the house and I walked straight into a corner of a wall. My dad's like, "Are you okay?" And he turned around, he saw my head and he's like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" Immediately went to the doctors. When I went to the doctor's office, they like looked at me and I think probably within 3 to 4 minutes, I was on a helicopter. I was flight for life from Topeka, Kansas to St. Louis, Missouri, to the Children's Hospital in Missouri or Kansas City, Missouri, sorry. And I was flight for life on a helicopter. They couldn't let my parents go. I had like a mask on. And then after we landed, they cut my clothes off and he said, "Watermelon or grape?" I said, "Grape," put a mask on me. I was out within 3 minutes. And I just remember waking up with a bunch of bright lights everywhere. Half my head was shaved. And I said, "Was there any video games?" When I woke up the next morning, I said, "Is there any video games and food?" And they just rolled in like a giant box TV, like the size of this with Need for Speed, and some pancakes, and I was fine. Turned out I had 9 out of the 10 symptoms being mentally challenged for life. They didn't think I was possibly going to walk ever again. They didn't think I was ever going to speak ever again. They thought I was going to have to be fed, with assistance. And, here I am today because of it. And I think that moment, was an awakening moment. I didn't always get it at that time, but I think that was my second chance at life. And there's a reason why I'm here today, because someone or something took care of me enough. And they say, "You're not done yet." So
Damn.
I'm very thankful for it, man.
That's a fun, crazy story. I didn't, man. I have a son that's 5 years old and he's a wild fucker, man. I can imagine him doing something like that. And yeah, it's just crazy how fragile life is, right? It must give you a different perspective on life too.
Yeah, I had 60 staples across the side of my head. 60 staples across the side of my head. I had to get CAT scans every week for like 12 months. Almost the full year, like 11 and a half months, almost the whole year. Every Wednesday I left school. I never attended school on Wednesdays. And the biggest thing I was pissed off about is they wouldn't let me go to lunch outside. I couldn't attend recess outside anymore, and that was the challenging part. So I had to sit there and read books. And that's kind of what I did is I just read books and sat inside with the teacher, and I ate lunch by myself for a whole year, in like the first grade. So it was pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, man, congrats on that. I mean, the fact that you're able to survive that and keep going, a lot of people, I think like you said, don't give up, right? And I don't know, at that young age, I mean, I feel like it probably matures you a lot quicker, right?
Yeah.
A different perspective, like I said. And
The success or the win that I see is built on the backs of the challenges and the adversity I've had my entire life. I mean, I didn't meet my real mom until I was 18 years old. My best friends committed suicide. My parents were in and out of rehab. I've never had anything easy. And so at this point in my life, as long as I don't lose my legs, I'm pretty sure there's nothing that's going to phase me or stop me, And so you just do it with a smile. And I was told a story about, it was a pair of twins with the same dad. And their dad was a drunk. He was in and out of jail. And one of the kids turned out to be exactly like his father. He beat up, his wife. He went to jail, was doing drugs. He was doing all these things. And then the other son turned out, and he was very successful, had a great career, loving wife, multiple kids, no issues, no trouble with the law. They interviewed them 10 years later, and they said, why did you turn out the way you did? If you both had the same dad, why did you each turn out the same differently? How'd that happen? And they both responded with the same answer. With a father like mine, how could you not? And to have two completely individuals that come from the same thing of challenge, you can either be that individual that chooses to recreate the challenge and the difficulty and just accept it, or you can move on and you can break the mold, essentially. And so no matter what kind of comes my way, I think I just always try and be that kid or that person or that human or that father that does things differently than how you should it.
Yeah. I love it. And that's a great story. Where it comes down to life's full of adversity, right? It's how you handle your perspective. And one quote I like is that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It's the same exact thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Comes down to perspective, man. So that's the stuff. Well, man, this was great. I mean, you went deep. You went deep with a lot of aspects of the media buying, and I'm excited for you. Yeah, I'm excited for you because I feel like you went from 0 to 7 million in just like what 6-7 months. How long did it take you to hit that mark?
Yeah, we launched June 1 of last year. That was the first call we ever did. We did 300K in that 6 months, and then after that we've done several millions. And like I said, we're on track to do probably 8 to 10 mil this year.
That's awesome. That is a short period. And that's the beauty of our industry is that once you crack something, it's just crazy how it's like exponential growth, right? It's like the exponential growth happens real fast, right? But you gotta be there, you gotta stick around to hit that point, right?
That's all you can.
So what would be your advice to somebody that maybe they're getting close and you're getting frustrated, and what's your advice to them?
Take a breath, man. That anything you do in life that's worth it is gonna be hard. And the thing is about it is it's kind of like the old gold mine story on how the gold rush started in Colorado. They struck a little bit of gold, they couldn't find it, they kept digging, they ended up spending most of that money. The miner, the guy who sold them the carts that took all the coal out, he went back to the same hole, dug 3 feet further, and that's how the gold rush started. And so you never know, and I can't satisfy my life, and I don't recommend anyone to give up on something because gold can be just 3 feet away, like the gold rush. And so that's how I try and remember things in life is if it's hard, it's probably because it's worth it.
Absolutely.
And if it was easy, everyone would do it. No. You might be 3 feet away from your dreams. You might be 3 feet away from your goals. You might be 3 feet away to something that changes your trajectory of life forever. But if you quit now, you're never going to see that. And so that'd be my opinion is you just keep going. Take your breath, take your stock. You never know how far away you are.
Great way to end this. Keep fucking going.
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. Bro, great interview. You killed it, man. This is awesome. Logan, 10 million.
That's
You
it.
to fucking do it, right?
10 million.
I want you to send us a fucking video. Tag us, we're gonna repost it. 10 million. Watch, this guy don't give the fuck up. 10 million, then 25 million, then 50, then 100 million.
That's it.
Let's do it, man. Good shit, man.
Thank you, bro.
Let's fucking go.
Appreciate it.
That was good. You killed it, man.
Get ready to level your shit up with the LFG Show. We travel the globe to bring you heavy hitters from all walks of life. We've been talking some serious business, from the best digital marketers, government contracting experts, to top athletic and celebrity doctors. We've got it all covered. We're talking to guys who've cashed in for billions with a B. And the best thing is, we're just getting started. So hold on tight. We're about to crank it up a notch. Get ready for next level networking and masterminds within the LFG community. Scared money don't make no money or honey. Hit the subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment, and let's fucking go.